Blog Talk Radio. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Medlock Post radio show. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are those of the host and guests. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. Thank you for joining the show today, and here is your host, Richard G. Medlock.
Raoul Kaushik, admire people who speak truth to you. A rude truth is good for the soul. It will slap you first, then it will set you free. Ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing some people get rudely slapped with truth in the last few days. This is amazing to watch. I have never in my lifetime seen a political year start out the way this one has begun. It is amazing. It is phenomenal. And all you so-called wackos out there with bomb shelters, be glad you have one, because we're in a situation right now, we could have a political nuclear bomb go off. Not only could we see a sitting president go away, we could see his administration in big trouble. Mark my words on this, some things are going to roll. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Medlock Post radio show on this beautiful, where I am, January 13th, yes, Friday the 13th, 2023. A political nuclear bomb, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that. You keep that in the back of your mind as you see things unfold in the government and the media and in your neighborhoods right now. This is episode 102. You're going to love this title, Weekend at Biden's. Yes, ladies. I ran this by a friend last night. He said, what's the title of your show tomorrow? I said, Weekend at Biden's. He couldn't stop laughing. I had other titles laid out. And I kept going. I thought of this one a couple of days ago. And he just kept, and then I started laughing. He says, no, you got to go with it. So Weekend at Biden's. And for those that have seen Weekend at Bernie's, you will know what we're talking about here, where Bernie dies and his two guys are trying to carry him around, making him to all these different parties, making him look like he's alive. Okay? So Weekend at Bernie's. This is Friday the 13th, and a political nuclear bomb is probably set to go off in the near future. There's a bunch of bombs that have been going off since the first of the year. Now, I want to go back. This is Friday the 13th. I want to go back to last Friday, which was the 6th, and remind everybody of all the media, the Democratic Marxists, even the rhinos, that were attacking the 20 GOP Republicans in the House for standing up for the Constitution, standing up against Kevin McCarthy and his kingdomship that he was trying to put into place. And national security is going to be at risk, and the country's going to fall apart, and democracy is going to die. Democracy is going to die, and on and on. And these 20 people, their political careers are over, etc., and on and on and on. So this is going on last Friday. Now, a week later, what is the tone? It's like, wow, look what's happening. The House of Representatives looks like it's going to become the people's house again. Look at some of the bills they have passed to do away with the funding for the 87,000 IRS agents. The left has gone berserk over that. Biden's already said, dead on arrival, I'll veto it. You know, that's fine. Think about that also. Then they passed a bill to do away with the IRS and the income tax and put in a consumer tax, a national consumer tax, which we have called for years and years and years the fair tax, not a flat tax. Now, there's some people out there, no, we need to do a flat tax of 15%. Well, it used to be 10%. Now it's up to 15%. Well, folks, the difference between a fair tax and a flat tax is this. A flat tax taxes the income of basically everybody that's paying taxes today. Nothing changes. It's just a flat tax. And those that aren't paying taxes aren't paying. Where a consumer tax, a fair tax, means you work, you get all your money, all of it, and you pay tax when you purchase something. Everybody pays. Everybody contributes. So even the family of four that doesn't work, that is getting $96,000 to $100,000 or $80,000, depending on what state you're in, a year, tax-free. Now, when you go buy something, you pay tax. That sounds fair, doesn't it? All right. So, total panic on the left. Why? Because their IRS is how they control people, and they control corporations. Total panic. Total, absolute panic on the left right now. And then I'm going to get into a couple other things too. Then, I'm going to hold that. I'm going to hold that one. All right. George Washington, in his first inaugural address, April 1789, said this, quote, "The blessed religion revealed in the Word of God will remain an eternal and awful monument to prove that the best institutions may be abused by human depravity, and that they may even, in some instances, be made subservient to the vilest of purposes. Should hereafter those who are entrusted with the management of this government, incited by the lust of power and prompted by the supineness or venality of their constituents, overleap the known barriers of this Constitution and violate the unalienable rights of humanity, it will only serve to show that no compact among men, however provident in its construction and sacred in its ratification, can be pronounced everlasting and inviolable, and if I may so express myself, that no wall of words, that no mound of parchment can be so formed as to stand against the sweeping torrent of boundless ambition on the one side, aided by the sapping current of corrupted morals on the other." Unquote. 1789, he just described what is going on in American government today. The Founding Fathers understood human nature. So the Constitution was written approaching human nature and knowing it doesn't change. And my good friend, John Locke, who was probably the biggest influence on the Founding Fathers, said this in his second essay concerning civil government. The reason why men enter into society is the preservation of their property. Therefore, whenever the legislators endeavor to take away and destroy the property of the people or to reduce them to slavery under arbitrary power, they, the officials of government, put themselves into a state of war with the people, who are thereupon absolved from any further obedience and are left to the common refuge which God hath provided for all men against force and violence. Whensoever, therefore, the legislative shall transgress this fundamental rule of society, either by ambition, fear, folly, or corruption, endeavor to grasp themselves or put into the hands of any other an absolute power over the lives, liberties, and estates of the people by this breach of trust, they, the government officials, forfeit the power the people had put into their hands, and it devolves to the people who have a right to resume their original liberty and provide for their own safety and security. Again, and this was written in the 1600s, again, we're seeing the understanding of human nature. And we're watching it so unfold in front of us today within our own federal government and some state governments. And we're going to get to a state government today and see what's going on there. So there's some groundwork, folks, for what we're going to be talking about. But keep in the back of your mind a political nuclear bomb. We're past hand grenades here, folks. We might be even up to drone bombings now in politics. Damar Hamlin, the Buffalo Bills, who had got trauma to his chest in the game with the Cincinnati Bengals a couple of weeks ago, is at home. Thank the Lord. He's doing well from reports that we're seeing, but he is at home in Buffalo. He was flown to a Buffalo hospital from Cincinnati earlier in the week, and now he's at home. So they're not giving much report. It's way too early to talk about his NFL future. But the NFL and the Players Association did agree, even though he's been put on injured reserve, and I'm not sure how all that works, but he is to get full pay for all of this. And so, I guess bless his heart and his soul. He's a fighter. A good thing is he was in excellent physical condition. And then, sadly, we report yesterday, the only child, the daughter of Elvis Presley, Lisa Marie Presley, at age 54, passed away. Now, I remember when she was born. Of course, everybody back then, Elvis, they're having a baby. Oh, wow. Lisa Marie, the child of Elvis Presley, the king. She is now with her Father in heaven. I hope and pray this was not a drug incident. Now, there's heart illness in the Presley family. Well, it was Elvis's mother died in her 40s from a heart disease. Elvis died of the same thing. I don't know if this is the same thing going on with Lisa Marie, but our prayers and thoughts go out to her mom and other half siblings. Life goes on, folks. It's interesting. We have a lot to talk about today. Carthy, ladies and gentlemen, put this out last night or this morning, yesterday afternoon, I think. Republicans are transitioning the House of Representatives away from Democrats' top-down, centralized control to a system that empowers legislators and restores your voice in Washington. The People's House is back open. Now, I support that statement in a lot of ways, because look at what they're doing this week. And they've set up that select committee to investigate the weaponization of government. And Hakeem Jeffries is going nuts out there on social media and news media and everything. He is going nuts. The Democrats are going nuts. And they've set up other committees to investigate other things. Folks, are the wheels getting ready to come off corrupt government? That's a question we need to be asking. And what can we do as we, the people, help bring the wheels off of corrupt government? I'm fighting a sneeze, and I have my finger on the mute button. So if I go silent real quick, that's why. So hopefully it's gone away here for a little bit. The Republicans in the House are passing bills to put the Democrats on notice and to put their votes on there to record their votes. One of the things in the rules of the House of Representatives that they voted in with very little debate was no more proxy votes. Folks, you either be in the House, you be in the chamber, or you don't vote. You can't give that away. There are no drop boxes out at the bar where you're sitting or wherever you are. No more drop boxes for representatives of the people. So they're putting things together. No, I didn't sneeze. I was taking my breath. So McCarthy is out there doing what he should have been doing the last 2 years, standing up and fighting the corruption. He just gave it some lip service and nothing happened. Because, the Democrats are in charge and we always give in to them, and that's over. So the bill to do away with the 87,000, no Democrats voted for it. The bill to do away with the IRS and create a consumption tax, no Democrats voted for it. No Democrat has voted for a bill that the GOP has proposed yet. Now, what does that tell you? Telling you that it's the Democrats' top-down centralized control to a system. Do what Nancy Pelosi tells you or else. Do what Chuck Schumer tells you or else. Those days are over in the GOP House. Now, maybe one thing that I think the Republicans are trying to achieve is to force, and I hate to use the word force, but that's what we're looking at here, is that they force the Democrats to come to the table to sit down and talk and to work out some of these things. The Democrats haven't done that for years. They didn't do it under Obama. They haven't done it so far under Biden. It's our way or the highway. We have the majority. We're going to do what we want. And they've been doing it. And it's hurt America from the top down. So Kevin McCarthy is showing a strong face. That got me thinking the other day. And you're going, oh, Richard's thinking again. I do that. I think all the time. I'm always questioning. I'm always looking at things. You have to understand my mind. Let me give you an example. I woke up this morning. I looked over at the clock. And it was about the third time I woke. I finally rolled over, looked to see what time it was. It was 5:46. I'd been awake for a while. I just hadn't got up yet. It was 5:46. Well, what did my mind do? Okay, what does 5:46 mean? What are some things that it can represent? So I started going, I said, okay, if you add it together, it represents 15. If you multiply it, 5 times 4 times 6, it's 120. And so I'm going through all this. 46 divided by 5 is 7 with 1 left over. Or excuse me, 9 with 1 left over. Or if 6 into 54, I'm just sitting there going through these things. It could be an address. It could be a P.O. box number. It could be part of a code number. So my mind is sitting there taking 5:46 a.m. and running with it. That's how my mind works. That's why my math teachers in school loved me. Because I just wouldn't. I went beyond what was going on. I wanted to know how it all worked. So it got me thinking, folks. During last week, when all this hullabaloo, this insurgency was taking place in the GOP House of Representatives, and Donald Trump came out backing Kevin McCarthy. And a lot of us were scratching our heads because they had their differences in the day. And then other people were backing him, and then other people were not. Some of them from the Trump administration were not backing him. So then, Saturday morning started. He gets elected on the 15th round, which set a modern day record. The oldest one, the other one was 9 from 1923. So he started at it. I went over his speech the other day on Monday's episode. Some of the things he said. And then we're watching him operate this week. And then this bomb that comes out about these declassified documents in different locations that Joe Biden had. We're going to get into that. And I'm seeing him just take charge and do what a leader is supposed to do in these situations. If it wasn't for the GOP House right now, the way it was formed last week, there still would not be a special prosecutor appointed by the DOJ. But there is one. We'll get into that too. But anyway, I'm thinking Donald Trump backing Kevin McCarthy. This is just, I'm throwing this out. Just my thought. This is why I do the disclaimer. Okay. Donald Trump got on the phone with Kevin McCarthy and said, Kevin, you're going at this all wrong. Remember, McCarthy would not even sit down and talk with the other side. Would not even go into the same room when this first started. This should have been done months ago, after the election, when he knew he had the majority in the House, and he just assumed he's going to be the new Speaker of the House. But he started getting pushback. So I think Trump got on the phone with him and said, Kevin, we've had our differences, but listen to me right now. Go talk with these 20 GOP representatives that are constitutional conservatives, that are not rhinos, and listen to them. Listen to what they want to do. They have good ideas. Not all of them are good, but 90% of them were good ideas. And then Kevin started going to meet with them, some of them one-on-one. Scott Perry was one of them. They met late at night and worked out their differences, and Scott Perry got what he wanted. Okay? That was one concession by McCarthy. And then on, and then he met with a couple of more, and on, until on the 15th round, he had the votes. Now, yes, there were 6 GOP that voted present, Matt Gaetz and Bo Bart and some others, and that's fine. They didn't want on the record that they supported him. However, they're being put on good committees. They're going to have good responsibility because they're smart and they're working for the people. So this is my thought, that Trump got to Kevin McCarthy, not to strong-arm him, but to say, look, there's a right way to do what you're doing and a wrong way. And you're doing more wrong than you're doing right. Don't be a Nancy Pelosi, because that's what he looked like he was doing. And my thinking is that Trump got to him and said, Kevin, but do it gradually so it doesn't look like you just totally caved. Do you understand that strategy? If he had just walked out, okay, I accept everything you're proposing, vote me in, he'd have probably lost more votes. But he sat down, he negotiated, he worked things out, he dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and you know what? When it was all said and done, everybody in the House of Representatives on the GOP side was happy. The only people that weren't happy were the Democratic Marxists, led now by Hakeem Jeffries. And they're fit to be tied. They lost control. Not only, they felt they could still control what went on in the House. They can't now. Anyway, that's just some of my thinking that has been going on this week. We are so many things happening out there. All right, let me Where are you? There we are. One of the bills they passed was the Born Alive Act. Now, the House Democrats are taking heat, big heat, for their decision to vote against the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, coined the Born Alive Act, that some leftists trashed on social media as performative deflection for Republicans. I'm not really sure what performative deflection really is, whether it's just, they're performing to deflect, But anyway, the act, which would require medical professionals to provide life-saving care for babies who survived attempted abortion procedures, and defines the infants as legal persons for all purposes under the laws of the United States, passed the House on Wednesday with a vote of 220 to 210. Now, all the votes against, the 210 votes, were Democrats, except for Texas Democrat Henry Cuellar and Representative Vincent Gonzalez, also from Texas. They voted present. Now, Republicans passed this bill. They passed it. Now, 210 Democrats have on the record their vote that they are against a live baby being saved. See what I mean by wheels are coming off? The Republicans are getting their votes on record against good bills, bad things. Now, two Democrats. One you will know, and the other one, I don't know if you know her or not. But I'm going to play this soundbite. They went to the floor of the House after this passed, and I could read it, what they said, but it's a whole lot better if you listen to them say it. Jerry Nadler, Democrat, New York, and Jan Skakowski, Democrat, Illinois. Please listen to this and see if you can make sense of this.
The problem with this bill is not that it makes anything, that it is not that it provides any new protections for infants. The problem with this bill is that it endangers some infants by stating that that infant must immediately be brought to the hospital, where, depending on the circumstances, that may be the right thing to do for the health and survival of that infant, or it may not. That is the problem with this bill. It directs and mandates a certain medical care which may not be appropriate, which may endanger the life of an infant in certain circumstances. That's why we oppose this bill.
As our chairman had said, not only is it illegal to not care for a born infant, but the law that you have provided on the Republican side actually can create more harm. It requires immediately taking a struggling baby to a hospital. That hospital could be hours away and could be detrimental to the life of that baby. This is nothing more than the part of the effort to make abortion illegal nationally in this country.
I know you're sitting there, your head is, you're just shaking your head. You want me to play it again? Oh, please, no, don't. They're just rambling. You listen to Nadler when he started out. He'd go up, but, and then, well, we did the duck. Wow. Folks, But did you notice Nadler used the word infant? Recognition that it's a live person? A legal person? See, they're seeing their control go away. Their wheels come off their wagon, and they can't stand it. Now, and someone explained to me, where in America is a hospital hours away? I can see an hour, hour and a half, but hours, 3-4 hours? Where's that in America? Unless you live way out in the boonies, there are places, but wilderness things. But again, helicopters can get there. Anyway, what they're doing is they're against this bill because it goes against their mantra and controlling these women. They use the word reproductive rights. They keep using that ever since the Supreme Court used or ruled in the Dodge case that the federal government doesn't support abortion. It goes back to the states. And see, a lot of people don't understand that. It goes back to the state to make the law or not make the law. But they keep taking away their reproductive rights. Well, that's a lie in itself. A total, absolute lie. They're not taking away your right to have intercourse with anybody. They're not taking away your right to become pregnant. They're not taking away your right to take birth control pills or make the man use protection. They're not taking those rights away. They're not taking your rights away to go to a doctor if you are pregnant and get help, get the pills and the vitamins and so forth that you need. They're not taking that away. They're addressing what this so-called right to murder an unborn baby. And now this bill says if it is a botched abortion and that infant still alive, you have to provide care instead of putting it over there on a shelf and letting it die. And this is what the Democrats voted to do. Just put it over there on a shelf or a table and let it die. They're on record now supporting that. And this is what the GOP House is doing. Folks, the wheels are coming off for the Democratic Marxists. Inflation. Did you see the report yesterday? Yeah, I'm sure you did. Everybody's, well, not everybody, but the media, Joe Biden and others are just, wow, look at this super report. Isn't this great? Inflation's now only at 6.5% annual basis. Well, that was from December inflation. It's still going up, folks. But they played some games with this report. They tried to report that energy prices have gone down. They said the word gasoline. Well, in December, it was stable up until the end, and then it started going up. And then at the 1st of January, it went up even more. The total of about 25, 30 cents a gallon. Now, we're starting to see it go down a couple of cents now. But so they're saying gasoline instead of energy cost. What they did is they moved. They gave a report that housing costs still increased 7% in December. What they did is they moved heating oil and electrical cost over to the housing category and put it under there. Heating oil in December went up 0.5%, or 0.5%. They didn't want that sticking under energy and making that number go up instead of what they're saying went down. See this? The truth, a rude truth, is good for the soul. It will slap you first, then it will set you free. I think we're trying to set the Democratic Marxists free. Don't know if we'll get there, but we're trying, folks. So there was a lot of untruth going on in that report yesterday. Now think about it. Last year, at the end of December, inflation was, 7.1% annual? The year before, it was 8.9%, and the year before, it was 9%? So you add all those up, let's say 8% and 9% is 17, and 7 is 24%, that it's gone up. Overall inflation. They want us to think, oh, it's only gone up 6.5% since all this started. No, it's still moving forward at 6.5%. And there were other things in their report that just did not jive. So what happened is some of us says, oh, let's go back and look at year to year. So a year ago, let's take eggs, which had already gone up quite a bit anyway. But in 1 year, at the end of December, eggs had gone up 65% in 1 year, not counting the 2 years before. 65% last year. And since January 1, they've gone up even more. Have you been to the store to buy eggs? If they have eggs. Eggs have now become a luxury item. A luxury item. So when you go back and look at year to year, you start to see the real picture. Let me play another soundbite. This is Steve Forbes defining to you what inflation is.
Inflation isn't new. This man-made disaster has bedeviled civilizations at least since ancient Rome. In order to pay for his extravagant expenses, the first century Roman Emperor Nero debased the Roman currency, the denarius. How did he do it? By replacing silver, which was valuable, with copper, which was not. And that was just the beginning. Rome's corrupt governments debased the coinage on a regular basis. By the 4th century, the price of wheat was 2 million times higher than it had been in the mid-2nd century. By the 5th century, Rome was finished, overrun not by barbarians, but by inflation. In the 16th century, English King Henry VIII did essentially the same thing with England's coinage to pay for his wars, divorces, and debaucheries. In what became known as the Great Debasement, food prices soared. Ultimately, Henry left it to his daughter, Queen Elizabeth I, to clean things up by issuing new, high-quality coinage, setting the stage for the emergence of England as a great power. The Continental Congress of the American Revolution tried to print its way out of its money problems by paying soldiers with paper money. The first U.S. currency, the Continental Dollar, was so overprinted that it became confetti, collapsing into hyperinflationary oblivion. Alexander Hamilton, the first Treasury Secretary, saved the day by linking the U.S. dollar to gold. Figures like Elizabeth I and Alexander Hamilton are rare. These stories usually end up badly. In the 1920s, rampant money printing by the Weimar Republic in Germany led to hyperinflation, economic collapse, and ultimately the rise of Adolf Hitler. Argentina, once the most prosperous country in South America, has never really recovered from its wild money printing in the 1950s. And Zimbabwe, now one of Africa's poorest and most corrupt nations, is infamous for its $100 trillion bill. Look for the source of a society's collapse, and you'll usually find the I word. So what exactly is inflation? There are two types, non-monetary and monetary. When a hurricane slams the Gulf of Mexico, interrupting fuel production, the price of gasoline rises. This is non-monetary inflation. The rise of prices due to some external event. Over time, the market recovers and prices normalize. Monetary inflation is something entirely different. It's the distortion of prices that occurs when money loses value. It's that feeling that something isn't right. Why is my weekly grocery bill, which used to be $100, now $200? Because your money is losing value. It's not that bananas have suddenly become more valuable, it's that your money has become less valuable. This can happen rapidly, as we've seen since 2021, or slowly over time. For example, in 1970, a can of Coke cost a dime, a Big Mac 65 cents. 50 years later, a Big Mac is $5, and you'd be lucky to get a soda out of a vending machine for $2. Obviously, these products haven't changed. It's the dollar that's worth far less. This slow-motion devaluation of the dollar is why young people today can barely make rent, when years ago their parents, who made far fewer dollars, could buy a house. Their dollars were worth much more. If you feel cheated by that, I don't blame you. You have been. So where should your anger be directed? You can start with our 37th president, Richard Nixon. The worst thing he did was not Watergate. It was taking us off the gold standard in 1971, which Alexander Hamilton had put in place 2 centuries prior. This allowed the federal government to print dollars more or less at will. Had the U.S. dollar stayed connected to the gold standard, it's estimated that today's economy would be at least 50% larger than it is. In a universe without inflation, you could buy that house. So what is the dollar's value linked to now, if not gold? Nothing more than faith. The faith that the money you have today will be worth the same tomorrow, next year, and the year after. But it becomes harder and harder to maintain that faith as the U.S. government prints trillions of dollars to pay for its outrageous spending. The most devastating effect of inflation is its impact on social trust. Money, after all, was invented to enable trade between strangers by providing a mutually agreed-upon unit of value. It is a facilitator of trust. Without that trust, trade, social relationships, and life as we know it ultimately unravel. So are we doomed to this fate? No. Just like England wasn't and America wasn't at its founding. We must once again link the dollar to a stable anchor, gold, or some other trustworthy standard. The time to start that debate is now, or we will go the way of Rome. You can bet your bottom denarius on it. I'm Steve Forbes, co-author of Inflation, What It Is, Why It's Bad, and How to Fix It for Prager University.
All right, thank you, Steve Forbes. Brilliant man. He's run for GOP president a couple of times, has some sound, very sound policies that can help America if people would listen to him. But the media shut him off. The current report came out yesterday, folks. Current household debt in America is $16.5 trillion. Trillion with a T. Household debt. The government debt is almost 32 trillion. They're under funded for Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and SNAP, and all that stuff. They don't add that into their responsibilities. That runs that up to like $90 trillion. This is not sustainable, folks. So they've run inflation up. Now, Joe Biden came out with a couple of comments yesterday that are, to me, laughable. He says, for the 6th month in a row, yearly inflation is down. It might be rising in economies around the world, but it is coming down here, and gas prices and food and more are following. That adds up to a break for families and proof that my plan is working. Folks, go talk to families. I have. The last 2 days, I talked to a lot of people, and every one of them will not agree with this statement. You go to the grocery store, everybody I talk to that goes to Costco or Sam's or Walmart or anywhere else just shake their head at the prices. They do. He also said, they think we are all a bunch of stupid idiots. This is yesterday, Joe Biden. When I ran for president, in his basement, he didn't say that. The economy was flat on its back. But we got to work putting in place a new strategy that would destroy the economy from the bottom up and middle out. Now, actually, he said the word grow. I put in destroy because that's what it's done. All of this is lies. Then he says, 2 years in, more Americans are working than ever before. Our plan is delivering. Folks, that's another lie. There are less people working today than under Trump. There are less people in the workforce than even under Obama. Why? Because the government has set in place means whereby it's more profitable not to work and be dependent on the government. Now, yesterday, or the day before, the CDC came out and extended the COVID public health emergency for 90 days. Now, why would they do that? Is there a COVID emergency out there? People are getting sick, but not that sick. The problem is people are just dropping dead for no reason at all, and every one of them's been vaccinated. Okay. So they extended this for 90 days. Why? I talked about this the other day. They in the omnibus bill, they put funding in there to switch these people over from the health emergency to another program to keep them on Medicaid, all 20 plus million of them. Otherwise, when the public health emergency went away, they would all be without free health care. But now they've extended it 90 days, which goes past April 1st, which gives them, the government agencies now, time, and the state agencies, time for these people to reapply under this new program that's fully funded under the new omnibus bill they passed December 23rd. You see these games they like to play? So let's go back. When Joe Biden took office, the economy was flat on its back, right? Inflation was 1.4%. The national gas price was $2.39. In my area, it was like $1.74. Like I said, that was the national average. Employment was the highest it had ever been in the United States for everybody. Women, blacks, and Hispanics included. Record number of people working. And we were energy independent. We didn't need energy from anybody. We were self-sufficient. So Joe Biden speaks with forked tongue again. Nancy Pelosi is out there doing the same thing. Hakeem Jeffries is out there doing the same thing. and again attack everything he gets. Every time he makes a comment about something, the last thing he does is attack the Republicans in the House. And folks, how many of you are mad about this gas stove thing? Yeah. I'm not going to get into that, but can you think of a more stupid thing to shut down? It's the cleanest burning energy out there. It's why the United States has below average gas emissions. You know, these UN councils and other globalists, they want it at a certain rate. Well, we're below that rate. China's like 4 times above it. But nobody says anything to China. They're afraid of them. The only other thing that could be more stupid than taking away gas stoves is taking away toilet paper. Toilet paper. I've just had a question come in. Who is a greater treasonous American than Benedict Arnold? Answer for yourself. And this is talking about the classified document things. Okay, Mike, thank you for sending me that. That's going to lead in to the Biden document thing. Folks, they appointed a special counsel. His name escapes me. Robert something. He's classified as a Republican. However, folks, beware. He was part of the team at the DOJ that put the Russian Gate thing against Trump together and supported it all those years. And we know that was a false document. It's been proven to be a false document. Nobody in the media has apologized. Nobody in government has apologized to Donald Trump and to America for wasting millions of dollars on investigations, phony investigations, etc., and an impeachment. So all of a sudden, folks, it's reported that this Penn group, a Biden think tank, discovered all these classified documents in their office, not locked up, just sitting there in boxes. And then they find it at one of Biden's homes, in there with his Corvette. Now, is it his home? I have in front of me a document that was sent that shows that Hunter Biden claimed this residence, that he owned it, in an application for a background screening request in 2018. He listed that address as his home and that he owned it. So was Hunter Biden in possession of government classified documents, sitting in a garage? Oh, but the garage was locked. And there's pictures out now showing them sitting on the shelf next to the Corvette with the garage door open. And thank you, Dave, for sending me this. This was posted by Melinda Devine on Twitter yesterday. She's a journalist. See, people, we have good journalists out there, and they're going to start digging, and they're going to start finding things. And we're finding here, but there's so many things, but there are questions galore. There's like 2,000 questions to ask about this thing, and they're not being answered. about these classified documents. And then you have Representative Johnson coming out. Oh, they were probably planted to try to get Biden in trouble. Probably planted? Well, that flew out the window because apparently Biden called his attorneys or White House attorneys or personal attorneys or somebody. Attorneys went over there, got them, and took them to the National Archives. And then I forgot. I've got classified documents at my house sitting there with my Corvette in the garage. So they went and got them and took them to the National Archives. Now, Kevin McCarthy, a former assistant United States attorney who's well-known, well-respected, yesterday said what the attorneys should have done is called the FBI because a crime had been committed, and that was now a crime scene. So they removed evidence from a crime scene, which is a felony, which you can be debarred from doing as an attorney. You see this game they're playing? And a lot of the Democrats, they're circling the wagons around Biden. Oh, this is different than Trump. Oh, this is totally different. In what way, sir? Well, they can't. It's just different. Trump had them at his house in a room that was kept locked, and very few people had access to. That Trump's attorneys cooperated with the DOJ to come in and actually look at the documents and go through every one of them back last May. And that Trump, President of the United States, declassified, which he had the authority to do. Now, let's go back to Joe Biden. A vice president, sitting or former, has no right to keep classified documents. None. Not. But he did. It has been revealed there were documents about Ukraine, Iran, the United Kingdom, and a few other countries and a few other things that were important to national security. Now, why Ukraine? Well, didn't Joe Biden sit there as vice president and there was a prosecutor in Ukraine threatening to prosecute Hunter for all his criminal activities over there? And Joe Biden sat there in a press conference in Ukraine. He'd gone over there to visit, and in the press conference said, if you don't fire that prosecutor and drop the case against my son, the United States will not give you the $8 billion. And within a couple of hours, the prosecutor was fired and the case was dropped. And then the United States, Joe Biden, gave them the $8 billion. Extortion, blackmail, cover up, and nothing happened. I mean, it was on video. It went the rounds. And then everybody's, oh, isn't that cute? Da, 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 da. A vice president cannot declassify and cannot keep classified documents. Period. It is a crime to go after Donald Trump. There's differences here, but it's worse in Biden's case. They'd better go after Joe Biden. The American people now are waking up, and they're not going to stand for this. They woke up last week. They woke up at the election last year. And we, the people, are tired of this. Why wasn't the FBI called? Why wasn't Congress informed that this was taking place? It was a week before the election. That's why. It took them 2 months for this to become public, I guess, so apparently the attorneys could go get all the documents and take them to the archives and say, oh, our hands are clean. Joe Biden's hands are clean. He did what he was supposed to do. No, some of these documents went back to 2014, 15, 16, when he was still in office. Now, Mike Pence was on Larry Kudlow last night. I got home in time last night to watch Kudlow. Great show. Pence was on there. McCarthy was on there. Andrew McCarthy was on there. Mike Pence was on there. And he was directly asked by Larry Kudlow, when you were vice president, what were the rules for you to follow when it came to classified documents? He said every morning a package would come to his office or in his residence, which is the same thing in Washington, D.C. A package would come from the White House by courier. It would go into his safe. They would put it into his safe. And then when he was ready to look at it, one of those couriers would open the safe or something like that. He would pull them out. He would go through them, read them, study them, and either put them back in the safe until they could be put into a burn bag or a return to the White House bag, and then they were taken back to the White House, either destroyed or filed away at the White House. So nothing stayed there. And that's how that works. And he says, well, what about when you were getting ready to leave? He says, we had attorneys come in for quite a while before he left office, went through everything to make sure that he had nothing that was classified, and if it was, it went to the National Archives. They went through it. He left with no documents except his own personal ones that he had created. And then he wrote this book, which again he took to the authorities. They went through the book to make sure there was nothing of classified information or that would adversely affect national security in his book. Do you see what's going on here? All kind of rules were broken. Some felonies, some not. Some of them were just guidelines, and some of them are felonies. Now, who should they be subpoenaing? Now, the word has gone out from the committee that's going to investigate this. If the Department of Justice does not subpoena aides and other people involved, we will. We have the subpoena power now, and we will bring them in and ask them questions. Again, if it wasn't for the way the current House is structured and Kevin McCarthy growing a spine and putting pressure on the Department of Justice, there would be no special prosecutor. There would be no investigation. The FBI still is not involved in this investigation. And if that was Hunter Biden's home, he can go to jail for having classified documents in his possession. Now, I don't know how you get out of that one. But even not, he lived there. He didn't have any kind of clearance. You see how deep this is? This is crazy, folks. And it goes back to what John Locke and George Washington were saying. When you go outside the boundaries of the Constitution, you are violating your trust to the people. Voltaire said, history never repeats itself. Man always does. So much going on. Confucius says, if you hate someone, then you are defeated by them. I agree. If you're offended by someone or you hate them, you have submitted yourself to them. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Epictetus. I know you haven't heard of him. Epictetus. Albert Ellis said, people and things do not upset us. Rather, we upset ourselves by believing that we can upset us, that they can upset us. I got all kind of quotes here, folks. Leonardo da Vinci says, learning never exhausts the mind. Yeah, but I know people that stopped learning after high school, and it was not fun to watch them through the years. They never picked up another book to read. They depended on other people and media for any information. Oh, folks, we are loaded here today. I'm looking at the time. We're not going to get to Vince Lombardi today. We don't have time. We will get to him. Now, Monday, we're going to do a special show because it's Martin Luther King Day. I love this man. I love what he stood for. I love his speeches. I love how he went about trying to change things for the better for all people, not just the blacks, for all people. And I might have a few of his sound bites. I used to, on my previous radio show, every year on either Martin Luther King Day or his birthday, I would play his complete speech that he made on the Capitol grounds in the 1960s, 64. I Have a Dream speech. I might even do that Monday. If you've never heard the whole thing or even read the whole thing, it is phenomenal, folks. I've done that. I've gone through and broke it down and explained it. So I can go either way on that Monday. But it's a national holiday, federal holiday. A lot of things will be closed. But we will be here Monday morning, episode 103, unless I decide to do one tomorrow morning, Saturday. A good lady who is now Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders of Arkansas was sworn into office the other day. And she set the tone her very first day in office. Now, I saw her interviewed last week by Larry Kudlow. And, they worked closely together in the Trump White House. I love this lady. She's 40 years old. She's now the youngest governor in the United States. But I listened to her last week. He said, what are your priorities? Number one, do away with the tax code in Arkansas, income tax code. Number two, get control and straighten out our schools. She said, if we don't do that, we're still lost. So on Tuesday, after she was sworn in, hours after, she went to work. 7 executive orders focused on budget, government, and schools. Why it matters. She's the highest profile Trump administration official currently in elected office, and the youngest at 40. She's also the first daughter of a former governor, Mike Huckabee, to be elected governor of that same state. So she's been immersed in politics, but not in elected office. So driving the news with her, she set the stage for her first term with a collection of executive orders. Number 1, an immediate freeze on hiring and promotions across all state government positions. Boom. Stop it. An order seeking to reduce fraud and waste by putting several reviews of applicants in place at the Commerce Department. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates Arkansas spent $53 million over 3 years on unemployment benefits to ineligible applicants. She's putting a stop to that. For the Office of State Procurement to perform a cybersecurity due diligence report and subsequently try to protect the state's information from adversarial foreign governments, i.e., China and Russia, and Iran. Iran's doing a lot of cyber attacks too. Requiring state departments to get approval from the governor before submitting changes to any rulemaking procedure to the Arkansas legislature. So she says, we're going to do this by committee. Everybody's going to be involved. You're just not going out there and operating by yourselves. Limiting government overreach through an inspector general review of all previously issued executive orders to determine any conflicts. Let's go back and clean house. Let's see where we have problems, and let's get them corrected. Another one, requiring state officials, departments, and agencies to revise written materials by replacing Latinx and its variants with Hispanics or Latino/Latina and their variants. She's cleaning up some wokeness here, folks. Prohibiting indoctrination and critical race theory in schools. Thank you. They're doing that in Florida. They're doing it in South Dakota. They're doing it in other Republican-controlled states. And you school unions, you teacher unions, and so forth, be on notice, folks, not only from good politicians, but from parents. They're tired of this. Between the lines, the last order gives the state's new education secretary, Jacob Oliva, power to review and amend the department's rules, materials, and communications to ensure employees, contractors, guest speakers, and lecturers are in compliance with Title IV and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Wow, let's obey the law. Boy, that's a novel thought, isn't it? Indoctrination is defined as compelling a person to adopt to an idea in violation of the act. Compel. freedom is not compelling. I've noticed as a side here, and I'm trying to get this professor on. I've been trying for months to get him on the program. Universities in the United States, not your main ones, but universities in the United States are starting courses on the Founding Fathers, the Constitution, Declaration, Adam Smith, and the Wealth of Nations, etc. So I'm in this meeting with him last May, and he's explaining to us all these things that his college was doing and that other universities are doing around the country. And I brought up the fact, we're talking about The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith and how it was taken out of the schools in the early 1900s and replaced with Karl Marx and communism. And he says, that's interesting that you bring that up. He says, in that we have a course, or we're designing a course, that we will study both the Wealth of Nations and the Communist Manifesto. I says, and I'm sitting here waiting for the ball to drop. And he says, we're doing this so they can compare the two. So they can decide which system they want to operate under. So they're not going in and teaching Karl Marx like they have been and saying, this is what you do. That's called indoctrination, and in this place, compelling a person to adopt an idea in violation of the Civil Rights Act. Now, she's referring to critical race theory and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Excuse me. But we can apply this to so many things. So, okay, let's compare the two. Let's compare the success of one versus the not success of the other. So now we're seeing, I love Hillsdale College. I've done some of their courses. I've got some of their books. I get their newsletter, and very conservative, very Christian. They've come out now with a course, and I'm probably going to take it, online courses, neoliberalism, and how did liberalism get hold in America? So you see what's happening now, and I'd like to think they're getting their ideas from me, but I'm not going to, that's a big head type thing. But now they're waking up and saying, let's compare the two. Let's compare conservatism with liberalism, with progressivism, with socialism. Let's compare the two, freedom or slavery. This is the movement that we're seeing out there, and it's a positive movement. Now, back to Arkansas. The order also instructs the LEVA to review and enhance policies that prevent and prohibited indoctrination, including COT. He is also to ensure that no school employee or student shall be required to participate in training based on critical race theory. But excuse me, Joe Biden has threatened schools that if you don't teach DEI and CRT, we're going to withhold your funding. Well, Governor Sanders says, fine, go ahead. We don't need it. So she is trying to shut this stuff down. There's more about this. You can pull up about her. She wants to cut wasteful spending, totally phase out individual income tax. It improve literacy, providing skill-based education, allowing parents to choose where children attend school, reduce crime. I don't care about getting the credit. I only care about getting results. If you send me legislation promoting adoption or improving foster care, I will sign it. If you send me a bill defending the right to free speech or the right to keep and bear arms, I will sign it. So what a tone to set your first day in office. She said it in the election. She campaigned on this, and she's following through on her campaign. And on Twitter this morning, she said this: under my leadership, schools will teach reading, writing, math, and science, and our children will learn that the identity that truly matters is the one we all share, our identity as children of God and citizens of the United States of America. Amen to Governor Sanders. We need more governors and more people like this, and they're coming, folks. They're out there. We're getting there. Our time is almost gone. I'm going to try to get this poem in. We only have 2 minutes left. This is titled Yesterday. I knew a place called Yesterday where once I used to live. Nobody there would turn away their time they'd always give. Everyone looked out for you as you did the same for them. In that place called Yesterday, I can remember when. People never had anything much. What they did have, it was shared. They always waved and gave a smile. That's how we knew they cared. We used to call it mucking in. That's what it's all about. It was easier to help each other when all you had was nought. Now I live here in the present, in a street of those unknown, whose life is so much easier if they keep it close to home. Yes, I was raised in yesterday, where we always had respect. Here in this place called present, I find it suffering from neglect. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with us. That's it for today, for the Medlock Post radio program. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Good day.